Hello everyone, today I'll be talking about William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth was a major English Romantic poet who helped to launch the Romantic Age. Wordsworth's greatest work of art is generally considered to be the Prelude. Wordsworth was the second of 5 children born to John Wordsworth and Anne Cookson. His sister, the poet and diarist Dorothy Wordsworth, to whom he was close all his life, was born the following year. Wordsworth's father, although rarely present, taught him poetry, including that of Milton, Shakespeare and Spenser. After the death of their mother in 1778, William's father sent William to Hawkshire Grammar School in Lancashire, and his sister to live with relatives in Yorkshire. She and William would not meet again for another 9 years. It was at that school that Wordsworth was to meet the Hutchinsons, including Mary, who would be his future wife. Wordsworth made his debut as a writer in 1787 when he published a sonnet in the European magazine. In November 1791, Wordsworth visited revolutionary France and became enthralled with the Republican movement. He fell in love with a Frenchwoman, Annette Vallon, who in 1792 gave birth to their child, Caroline. Because of lack of money and Britain's tensions with France, he returned alone to England the next year. War between France and Britain prevented him from seeing Annette and Caroline for several years. The year 1793 saw Wordsworth first published poetry with the collections An Evening Walk and Descriptive Sketches. That year he met Samuel Taylor Coleridge in Somerset. The two poets quickly developed a close friendship together. Wordsworth and Coleridge, with insights from Dorothy, produced lyrical ballads, an important work in the English Romantic movement. From 1795 to 1797 he wrote his only play, The Borderers, a verse tragedy set during the reign of King Henry III of England, when Englishmen of the North Country were in conflict with Scottish rovers. During the harsh winter of 1798 to 1799, he began work on an autobiographical piece, later titled The Prelude. He wrote a number of famous poems, including the Lucy poems. He and his sister moved back to England, this time with fellow poet Robert Southey nearby. Wordsworth, Coleridge and Southey came to be known as the Lake Poets. Through this period, many of his poems revolved around themes of death, endurance, separation and grief. On October 4th, Wordsworth married a childhood friend, Mary Hutchinson. Dorothy continued to live with the couple and grew close to Mary. The following year, Mary gave birth to the first of 5 children, 3 of whom predeceased William and Mary. Wordsworth had for years been making plans to write a long philosophical poem in 3 parts, which he intended to call The Recluse. By 1805 he had completed it, but refused to publish such a personal work until he had completed the whole of The Recluse. In 1807 his poems in 2 volumes were published. Up to this point, Wordsworth was known publicly only for lyrical ballads, and he hoped this collection would cement his reputation. Its reception was lukewarm, however. His family, including Dorothy, moved to Rydal Mount Ambleside in 1813, where he spent the rest of his life. In 1814 he published The Excursion as the second part of the 3-part The Recluse. He had not completed the first and third parts, and never would. Dorothy suffered from a severe illness in 1829 that rendered her an invalid for the remainder of her life. With the death in 1843 of Robert Southey, Wordsworth became the poet laureate. He initially refused the honour, saying he was too old, but accepted when Prime Minister Robert Peel assured him you shall have nothing required of you. He became the only laureate to write no official poetry. When his daughter Dora died in 1847, his production of poetry came to a standstill. William Wordsworth died by re-aggravating a case of pleurisy on 23rd April 1850, and was buried at St. Oswald's Church in Grasmere. His widow Mary published his lengthy autobiographical poem to Coleridge as a prelude several months after his death. Though this failed to arouse great interest in 1850, it has since become to be recognized as his masterpiece. Thank you for listening.